Welcome to the program, everyone. Support comes from Z-Biotics. Now, I've told you before, I'm not trying to wake up the day after a night out feeling like, I lost a fight with the couch. That's why I use Z-Biotics pre-alcohol before I have my first drink. Z-Biotics pre-alcohol is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic invented by PhD scientists. And here's the key. This is the thing to know. When you drink, alcohol turns into a toxic byproduct right in your gut. It's not dehydration that makes you feel rough the next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme that breaks that down. And for me, it's simple. I take it before my first drink. I enjoy myself. I drink responsibly, and I feel like myself the next morning. So you got holiday parties happening right now, dinners, even tailgates. Bring pre-alcohol, New Year's, right? Bring pre-alcohol along so you can enjoy the night and still show up the next day. So go to zbiotics.com/lemon. Use the code LEMON for 15% off of your first order. They've got a 100% money back guarantee, no questions asked. That's zbiotics.com/lemon. Use the code LEMON. Now let's get started. All right, everybody, let's get started. Thank you. Welcome to the Don Lemon Show. It is Friday. And good morning. It is Epstein Files release day. Are you guys ready for release day? Oops, sorry. Are you ready for release day? Because we have been anticipating this for a long time. Is it really going to happen? And, I really want to start simply here because sometimes the simplest question is the one that nobody really wants to answer. We'll get to that. But make sure you hit the like, make sure you hit the thumbs up because it does affect the algorithm. Good morning. Also, where's my man? Where are my manners? Where are you guys streaming from? Let me know, please, exactly where you are streaming from. So, oh, wait a minute. I think I had the wrong microphone on. How about that? Let me know exactly where you're streaming from because I would like to know. I want to know where the folks are. And so, look, sometimes the simplest questions is the one that nobody wants to answer. Stuttgart, Germany. Wow, I once dated someone from Stuttgart. Amazing. So if these files were so harmless, right? Why Tucson, Arizona, Annabelle, Kentucky? Why don't they want to release them? Why are we still waiting on them? Why are they making the American people wait on them? Seriously, that is the question this morning. And also the question is, are they going to release them? Now, by the way, I got to tell you, I'm doing all of this. I've had no coffee, no nothing, right? So it's going to be a rough morning for me. Look, if there's nothing explosive in them, why isn't Donald Trump releasing these today? If there's nothing embarrassing, if there's nothing damaging to people with power, then this would have been a done deal already, don't you think? But instead, we have been waiting. We started a clock a while back. Everyone thought, well, here's the thing. Not everyone thought. Because this was like a Republican thing that Republicans cared about, that Democrats really didn't care about. And then all of a sudden, Donald Trump said, you know what? I don't think these things should be released. We should stop talking about it. By the way, someone please email me the notes. Did not come in my email. Thank you very much. And then Donald Trump said, stop all this mess. So we know the files should be released just because of that. Just because of that. Because in all of that, it is something that is suspicious at this point. Once you get to the point where you're saying nothing is in there and you have had a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, that is problematic. That is a big issue when you get to that point. So I don't know. Do you guys think that we're actually going to see these files today? I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure we're going to see these files. And look, let's put it this way. I'm not holding my breath. I would like to hold my breath, but I'm not holding my breath. Because if I held my breath, I could be holding my breath until midnight. Or it could come out as we're on the show right now, as we're doing this show. So what are you expecting to see here? Am I expecting to see some explosive things? I think that there are explosive things in there, but I don't trust this Justice Department. I really don't. And so I don't know if they have redacted it beyond recognition. I don't know if they have scrubbed them. I know they according to the reports, that the FBI was working overtime with agent after agent after agent, a whole team of agents to scrub Donald Trump's name from the Epstein files. And the reports are that he is mentioned, I think, hundreds of times in the Epstein files. So they're finally going to be released today. A person that we're going to interview in just a moment is Ro Khanna. And Ro Khanna knows all about the files. They've been getting information from Jeffrey Epstein's estate. And Ro Khanna is going to join us. But here's a preview of what he said to expect about these files. Watch.
Tomorrow, by 11:59 p.m. on Friday, the Epstein files will finally be released because of my Epstein Transparency Act. We will see thousands of documents that we should have seen decades ago. 3 federal judges have ordered the release. As I'm speaking, dozens of lawyers on the national security team at the Department of Justice are preparing the documents for release. Let me be very clear. We need a full release. Anyone who tampers with these documents or conceals documents or engages in excessive redaction will be prosecuted because of obstruction of justice. We will prosecute individuals regardless of whether they're the Attorney General or a career or political appointee. We need full transparency and justice for the survivors. Tomorrow, finally, rich and powerful men who raped underage girls or who covered up for this abuse will be held accountable. The Epstein class needs to go.
Oof, that's harsh. It's harsh, but it's true. To hear that, especially early in the morning, someone saying someone could have done that to underage girls. That's harsh to hear. Now, the question is, are you going to see these Epstein files? Are you going to see them if they do indeed release them? Are you going to see them at 10:20, which is 2 minutes from now? You're going to see it at 10:30. You're going to see it at 11. Are you going to see it at noon? Or are you going to see it at 6 tonight? Are they going to wait till midnight? Are they going to come up and try to drop them, under the cover of darkness when people are asleep? Or are they going to come up with an excuse about, there's a Southern District of New York investigation, and therefore we can't release the files? If that indeed does happen, that is really problematic, extremely problematic. And so then how could you trust anything that comes from this Justice Department? The Justice Department has been really quiet about this. The reports are that they don't have a plan, that as of the beginning of this week, they were having trouble trying to go through all of the files and redact the victims' names. Now, that could be an excuse to say, we need an extension because we haven't had the opportunity nor the resources or the time to be able to redact the victims' names. What time do you think they're going to be released? Someone in the thing says 11:59. I don't disagree with you. 11:59 or 2 more weeks. That's Donald Trump's thing. Thank you very much. I think 11:59, and then the system will crash, and then they'll say we couldn't. We tried our best. We did our due diligence, and the system crashed. Give us some time, or we need an extension in order to be able to make that happen. Mark my words. That's what they're going to say, because they can't just go rounding up members of the Trump administration. Well, they could, but since Donald Trump controls the Justice Department, I think that they are going to try to extend this deadline. So I want to get this in early because Thomas Massey is going to, not Thomas Massey, Ro Khanna is going to join us in just a minute here. And so I want to get the ad break in right now before we get to him. And I want to get a word from our sponsor so we can have as much time to speak with Ro Khanna in just 2 minutes as possible. Here it is. This episode is brought to you by Graza, always fresh, single origin olive oil. If you're still buying boring holiday gifts, let me just help you out here. Olive oil is the move. And Graza is my go-to. It's wildly fresh, never blended, and made from olives picked, pressed, and bottled in the same season. You can literally see the harvest date on the bottle. They've got ready-to-gift sets that make this easy. So The dinner party pack comes with olive oil for cooking and finishing, a bottle of wine, a corkscrew, and Evo potato chips. That's a whole dinner party in a box. Their duo gift set, sizzle for cooking, drizzle for finishing, is perfect too. And now it comes in glass. Graza makes everything taste better, and it looks great on the counter. Right now, get 20% off your first order. Go to graza.co/Don and use the code Don. That's graza.co/Don. Use the code Don. This show is sponsored by MSI Reproductive Choices. They provide contraception, safe abortion, and essential reproductive health care in 36 countries, often in places where they are the only provider. This has been a brutal year for women and girls. Funding has disappeared. Clinics have closed. Options are shrinking. MSI prepared for this years ago, but they still lost $15 million in funding. They're still standing because people refuse to look away. People who believe healthcare is a human right. People who understand that when women control their bodies, they control their futures. For just $65, you can provide contraception for 10 women for an entire year. So text LEMON to 511-511 or go to msiunitedstates.org. That's msiunitedstates.org. Text LEMON to 511-511. Text fees may apply. Please give if you can. And thank you so much to our sponsors. This is a giving time of year, so please help out if you can. It's very important for women around the world. So Ro Khanna has served California's 17th congressional district since 2017. He sits on the House Oversight Committee, and he's arguably one of the two members of Congress most responsible for this bipartisan Epstein Files Transparency Act. It's him and Thomas Massie, I think, deserve all the credit. And then the other folks who came on board afterwards to push for the release of these files. Ro Khanna joins us now. Thank you, Congressman. I appreciate it. And let me just thank you for all of your work on this issue. You've just been tremendous. And I think the American public really appreciates it and respects you even more for it. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Don. But the credit, as I'm sure you would agree, goes to the survivors. They came 2 times to the Capitol at mine, Thomas Massie's request. The nation heard their stories. They had to relive the trauma. It was unconscionable that we had to have them come 2 times to the steps of the Capitol and move this. I just hope they finally get some closure. And people who face sexual assault across the country, they've come up to me and said, look, the fact that Congress did this means so much. And we're hearing today that we're going to get hundreds of thousands of documents released. Now, the law candidly says that they needed to get all the documents by today. They've obviously dragged their feet. They weren't willing to meet Massie and me. They weren't willing to meet their survivors' lawyers. But if they are at least getting the bulk of it there and they have a timeline for the rest of the release, that's a constructive step.
Okay. Thank you for that. So what everyone wants to know, what is the update? Have you heard anything? What time are you expecting them? Do you even know at this point?
What we've heard, and again, it's not official, but just we've networked in this world, is about 3 p.m., 3 to 4 p.m., they will start to release the files. What we've heard is that they have been very, very slow to go through millions of these documents. Look, they should have been doing this for months. They only started after the law passed, and they've had a small team. They do need a team to go through the documents. You can't have release of sexually graphic material. You cannot have the release of victims' identities. The problem is that they just started at this a few weeks ago. They should have been doing this for months, and they haven't been willing to consult the survivors' lawyers. That said, there are 3 federal judges who have ordered the release. My understanding is we're going to get a substantial release. The 2 things I'll be looking for is the redactions. Is it heavily redacted, or are they doing it in a reasonable way? They owe, under the law, an explanation for every single thing they redact. They have to provide an explanation for why that is being redacted. Secondly, are they claiming too much classified information? They owe an explanation within 15 days for anything they claim classified. And third, are they at least talking to the survivors today? I would assume we're hearing they are. The DOJ is planning to reach out to the survivors to explain what is being released. That is the most common procedure. So are they going to follow through with that? And do they have a clear timeline saying, okay, yeah, we didn't comply literally with the law, which required it today. We have teams on this. Here's by when you can get the rest of the release.
Congressman, how this is sort of rhetorical, but how long have they had to go through these documents? And when all of these folks are redacting Donald Trump's name, reportedly, this team of FBI agents, why has it taken them so long to do this? If they can redact Donald Trump's name reportedly in there for dozens, if not hundreds of times, why weren't they on this? It seems like that should have been a priority for them because the American people were demanding it.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And of course, the Oversight Committee had subpoenaed them, which they were not complying with, right? I mean, obviously, the fact that they can produce all these documents suddenly today, think about it. Pam Bondi said there was nothing to produce just 6 months ago. Well, what changed? Why didn't you produce all of this 6 months ago? And then when Oversight had the subpoena, they said, oh, we've produced everything. And it was 1/10 of what they're producing today. So they obviously have been misleading the American public. And the reality is they didn't expect my bill to pass. They didn't expect Massey's discharge petition to pass and force a vote on my bill. They didn't expect it to go to the Senate. They didn't expect the president to sign it. So they were caught flat-footed. And then Susie Wiles is out there saying, Pam Bondi whiffed. You better get this out. And so now they realize, oh, wow, we're in trouble with the Congress. The president thinks, chief of staff thinks we messed up. We better get this going. And suddenly they get lawyers on this to go through the documents. They should have been doing this months ago. They did not. The Trump name is a key question, which we won't know till we see the documents. Have they redacted his name every place it comes? Or is his name showing up where it belongs? That's why we have to wait to see the release.
Do you think that they are going to try to request or claim, look, this is just impossible, and they'll try to, ask for an extension somehow to just sort of, string you along a bit?
Look, I think first let's just get to what do people want to know. They want to know who the rich and powerful men are who raped these girls or were at these parties on Epstein's rape island and didn't say anything and covered it up, knowing that 15, 16-year-olds were on that island being abused. Who are these people? And are those names going to come out? And we're going to get a sense about whether they're covering up and protecting very influential friends of the president, very influential people in society, or whether this is truly a legitimate release. The second point, to your point, is they obviously should have done it all by today. They've had a year since the president's been in office. They didn't do that. They scrambled these last few weeks. So the question will be, okay, what is the timeline? How many documents are there? Kash Patel says 300 megabytes of these documents. What is their timeline of the further release? And is this release, which we'll see, in good faith, or is it heavily redacted? And is it protecting influential, rich, powerful people?
Since you went there, I will play just a bit. This is your colleague, Thomas Massey. I believe it was yesterday, saying that he will name the 20 men accused of sex crimes. Here it is.
Hi, this is Congressman Thomas Massey. We're about 48 hours from the deadline for the Attorney General to produce all of the Epstein files according to the Epstein Files Transparency Act, which was signed on November 19th. So that makes the production of these materials in a publicly searchable format due on December 19th. And I wanted to talk about some of the things to look for and what we may be anticipating and some of the unique aspects of this project. Let's start out with, how will you know if they've released all the materials? Well, one of the ways we'll know is there are people who have covered this case for years, and I've talked to them in private, and they know what some of the material is that's back there. But the other way that we're going to know is the victims' lawyers have been in contact with me, and collectively they know there are at least 20 names of men who are accused of sex crimes in the possession of the FBI. These would reside in the FD 302 forms. The FBI fills out these forms to summarize or memorialize what a witness gave them as far as testimony when they interviewed with the FBI.
Okay, so you understand where he's going with this. He thinks that obviously there's enough information that is already in the record, whether from folks who have been investigating this case for a while and also the victims' attorneys, but he's saying there are 20 men. Can you please expand on that for us?
Well, look, the survivors' lawyers have said that there are men who either abused these underage girls or knew the abuse was going on and didn't say anything. What do I mean by know that it was going on? They're at a party. There are a number of women who are over 20 there, and then there happens to be one or two or three underage girls, clearly 15, 16, 17, sticking out as a sore thumb. Some of them parading around naked, and these rich and powerful men there knowing they're underage girls there and don't say anything. Now,
Mm.
they may not have actually done anything to those underage girls, but think of the message it's sending these underage girls if there's a powerful politician, rich and powerful people at a party, and they're being paraded around and nothing is being said. They basically are being told, oh, this is normal. This is how the world works. So what we want to know is, who are these rich and powerful men who are showing up at these rape parties? Who are these rich and powerful men who actually did abuse or rape these underage girls? And who were the rich and powerful men who sex trafficked young women, where they paid for sex, even if the young woman was not under 18, but 21, 22, 23. All of that needs to come out. And what Massey is saying is that the survivors' lawyers have told us that there are a number of these people in these files and that those files need to be released. Now, my understanding from Massey is that he had a conversation with one of the lawyers or some of the survivors who've given him the specific names. I have not had the specific names, but I have had conversations with survivors and survivors' lawyers who've said things like this billionaire or this real estate developer, not Trump, just a real estate developer, or we know their names out there. So, and some of these lawyers have seen the files themselves. So that's what we're looking for. Is that going to come out?
Mm. Okay. So my thing is that going to come out, but is he saying he knows the names of these people and he's planning on releasing them? Can you clarify that for me?
Well, my understanding is that he has had conversations with survivors themselves or lawyers themselves where they have said, look, these are the types of names that may be in there. And they have not given me the specific names. Apparently, they shared those specific names with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Massey. Some of the survivors did.
Do you know who they are?
I have not. I have not had that, but I know the class of people they are. They'll say rich politicians, billionaires. The problem is that the survivors much rather have that come out through the files than have people saying it, because if people say it, it's not as believable
They'll
in
say it's
terms of
hearsay, and we don't know.
yeah.
But yeah, do you think it's any of the? Because we got photographs yesterday that were released. We got a couple. I think we spoke to you about the ones a couple of weeks ago on Epstein Island and all of those. Is it some of the people we have seen in those photographs, you believe, or there are others as well?
There are others, and look, I want to be very careful. Just because someone is in a photograph with Epstein,
Totally agree.
does
Totally
not
agree.
mean that their life should be ruined. I mean, obviously,
Right.
this guy somehow was very, very connected, and he went to a lot of events. And there may be someone at a photograph, who met him, and we need to be careful about that, because there's a huge difference between, okay, I met Jeffrey Epstein, or I tried to get money from him. He was a socialite who was funding a lot of things. Then there's a second order. I showed up to a sex party or a rape party where underage girls were present. That, to me, is a very different level of moral guilt and culpability. And then, of course, the third level, I paid young women for sex and trafficked young women. That is a different level of guilt. And the worst is I actually raped underage girls. My view is that we have to distinguish between people who just happen to be in a picture with him or got money from him, from the other three issues, which is covering up for underage abuse, trafficking women, or abusing young girls. And that's what the file release will help do. And frankly, the people who are in some of these photographs or things should want the files released, so that that the American people can make a distinction between who really was engaged in wrongdoing and who may just have been in a photograph with Epstein.
Can I just tell you this, Congressman? The engagement this morning is off the charts, and so the American people are really interested in this. And I think a lot of folks are going to watch it. A lot of folks are watching and waiting. So make sure you hit the like and hit the thumbs up, and more people will become aware of our conversation, please, because this is a really important one. So my question to you is, I'm wondering if this comes out and it starts, it starts to get a little hot under the collar or hot for people who are in high positions. Do you believe this is just the beginning of something that is it's going to be a snowball or an avalanche? Or do you think people are going to be shocked by what they see and what names they hear or recognize in these files?
I do. I believe they're going to be disgusted. I think they're going to be shocked. I think there's going to be a moral reckoning for our country. How did we allow these rich and powerful people to be frequenting a rape island? The most innocent, and I think that it gets beyond this, but the most innocent thing is that you had rich and powerful politicians and billionaires showing up to Epstein's rape island knowing that young girls were going to be present and not saying anything. And that's kind of disgusting that that was going on. And there are a lot of men who did that. And that is, I think, what's going to shock this country. And then, of course, there are men who trafficked in these women at these sex parties, paying for sex. And then there are men who actually did not check whether these young girls were underage or not and engaged in obnoxious behavior. And then there are those who knowingly raped underage girls. And the amount of people who we would think in high society or in powerful positions who showed up to these kind of horrendous, disgusting parties, I think is really going to shock the country.
I can't believe we're sitting here at 10:38 on a Friday morning talking about powerful men in government and business and all facets of society who were abusing young girls and getting away with it. I feel like it was decades, Congressman.
It was decades. It's across parties. It was total disregard for these survivors. I mean, if you give Massey and me any credit, it's that we finally said, no, we're going to listen to these survivors and we're going to lift up their voice. And as members of Congress, we had the opportunity and power to do that, to bring them to the Capitol. But why did no one listen to these survivors for decades? They were discarded. They were abandoned. They were inconvenient. They were used for the gratification of powerful people and pushed to the curb, not to be heard of again, inconvenient. And the hope was this thing just goes away. And then you hear this again and again. Why are we obsessed about a dead person who abused underage girls? Why are you obsessed about that, bro? Why, this was years ago. Move on. Talk about AI. Talk about jobs. Talk about inflation. How about talking about morality? How about talking about accountability? How about talking about a society where rich and powerful men did disgusting things and still are famous? And that's why I think the American people have tuned into this, because they understand this is one of the greatest scandals in our country's history, in my view, of the abuse that took place.
I want to ask you about Susie Wiles and the Vanity Fair article. Susie Wiles was interviewed by Chris Whipple over at Vanity Fair, and she said, this is a quote, Donald Trump is in the file, but that he is not in the file doing anything awful. How would she know that? How do they know that? How do we know that?
Well, I don't know how she knows that. I mean, unless she's really had people reporting the files. First of all, the fact that she says he's in the files means we have a pretty good indication about whether we're going to get an honest accounting, right? I mean, if Trump's name is nowhere in these documents, you know, even by Susie Wiles's admission, that something is fishy. Second, you know, her characterization really offended me, because she said, well, Epstein and Donald Trump were playboys in their single years. Look, there's a huge difference between being a womanizer, having affairs, being a playboy, hitting on young women, and showing up and raping underage girls, or being present at parties where underage girls are parading naked and going to be raped. And I just want to make sure that we understand what's going on, so that we're not thinking of these powerful men as playboys or womenizers. These people who were at the island, some of them were actually rapists or abusers, and others were bystanders watching that take place and indifferent to it, laughing about it, joking about it. That's what we're talking about. So I know people in my life were playboys. This has nothing to do with being a playboy. That's okay. You may have a moral issue with it. It's a free country.
It's
This
consenting
is
adults, at
criminal
least, right?
behavior.
That's consenting adults, at least. And, if you're the people who are Playboy, right? We're not talking about consenting adults here. Congressman, before I let you go real quick, what's the process? So when will the American people know? How will you let the American people know? How will we know let our audience know the Epstein files are coming? This is what we have right now. What's the process?
What I'm hearing through the network is that 3 p.m. is when they're going to start to release the documents. They have no obligation, candidly, to release them to Congress first. They need to release it to the country. It would have been better had they met with Massey and me and the survivors' lawyers. They wouldn't be in a place like they are today where they're scrambling, but they didn't do that. So start to focus on it at 3 p.m. Many people will report on it. And again, the things to look at is how much are the redactions? Have they provided an explanation for those redactions? Are they providing a timeline for how the rest of the files will be released? Did they contact survivors before they release these files? I'm hearing they're going to do a Zoom call with survivors. Are they actually going to follow through with that? And then keep just in the back of your mind, what is the point of all this? Well, the point of all this is that rich and powerful men abused these underage girls or covered it up. And are we finding out who those men were? Right? This is not an exercise in just how many hundreds of thousands of documents we get. This is an exercise in trying to hold people accountable who weren't held accountable. And that's the lens through which Massey and I are viewing the release. And we have a good sense of what the documents should be because we've talked to the lawyers of the survivors who've seen these documents.
Big day. And we owe it all to you and Massey, and as you said, the survivors, and also the folks who have stepped up and pushed for this, including Republicans. Like, you have to give it to her, Nancy Mace, and others who defied the president and said this needs to be released. Ro Khanna, man, thank you so much. We really appreciate it, and we hope that you come back. Thank you.
Thank you for covering this.
Absolutely, we'll continue to. Ro Khanna, I mean, he has done a really fantastic job of getting these files and pushing to have these files released. And it was gracious enough to come on this morning. I got to tell you, y'all, I mean, this makes me sick when you hear him. I mean, he put it bluntly. Sometimes I'm afraid to say those words, or I'm hesitant to say the words about, rape and underage girls and all of that. And, you have to be careful of the AI and the algorithm here because it'll knock you off if you actually speak the truth on some of these platforms. But this is real stuff. And I think that's why we get into the problems that we get into, and people get into these situations because we're afraid to discuss it. We think this is something that's too hard for adult ears or even young people's ears. I think you need to start talking to kids as early as possible in a way that is understandable and digestible to them so that they don't fall victim to anything like this, so that they don't become a party of abuse. And I think it's really important that we stop tiptoeing around this. We stop, because when we do, we allow the predators to win. We allow the gross bastards to win. And I know you guys see it. Don't pretend that you don't. Day after day after day, coming across your timeline, this person arrested, this high profile person. And quite frankly, let me just be honest with you, this MAGA supporter, this person connected to MAGA, this conservative, this evangelical pastor, all of this have been arrested, accused of, convicted of having images of children in compromising positions, if you know what I mean, on their phones, in their devices, contacting them. Don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about. Contacting young girls. You've seen, Kevin Hansen? He tried to tell you this, at least brought some light to it years ago. And I think that show should still be on, a network somewhere. I know that it is streaming, but I think it should be everywhere. And thank you, Marlo Jurgensen, agreed. Teach children with the correct terminology, is using the correct terminology as well, so that they will know. Do you guys remember, not just a couple months ago, that teacher that everyone was giving accolades to, plaudits to, because she said, these are my private parts, my private parts, my private parts. Do not touch my private parts, my private parts, my private parts. That is appropriate for children of a certain age. And I know that there are probably parents and adults out there, oh, I don't want my kids hearing that. Then if you don't want your kids hearing that, then okay, then if something happens, I think that your mind might change. Or if you're in contact or you know someone who's been involved in this, this is gross, disgusting behavior. And we are allowing certain people to get away with it because they're powerful, because they're rich. And many of them, I have to say, because they're men of a certain ethnicity, they're white men, and we're allowing them to get away with it because of their privilege in society. Now, listen, there are predators of all different ethnicities and background and ages. But if you look at the facts, if you guys can find me that Tim Tebow thing, please find it for me. If you look at the facts, you'll see that there is a certain demographic that you have to look out for. And it is also the person who many people least expect. And it can be the person who is closest to your friends or your family, the sports your kids play, the Bible camps that they attend, all kinds of things. And so let this be a lesson to everyone who's out there to stop pretending that this does not happen, to stop pretending, I'm just going to be honest, that Uncle Bill, Uncle Joe, dad, stepdad, pastor, church leader, choir director, dog catcher, politician, rich man. It can be any of those things, any of those people. And you have to stop pretending that a predator looks like a creep, like a certain kind of thing. No. And as someone who is a survivor, as I always tell people, people don't have a P for predator on their forehead, an M for molester on their forehead, or an A for abuser on their forehead. It's not a scarlet letter. It's usually the people who are dressed up, cleaned up, smiling in your face, closest to your family, and you have no idea. So stop beating around the bush and allowing this to happen. Because, as I said, the person you least expected. And if you want to know, when they say what the profile, you want to profile brown people and take them off the streets without due process, well, maybe it's time to start profiling some people who are child sex predators. Here's Tim Tebow, Christian, I believe conservative, former football player, and now sports announcer. Here he is.
The number one offender type is biological fathers, but by far it is being done by middle-aged Caucasian men. Many, over half of them, college graduates. Many of them are educated, good jobs. This isn't just who we're thinking about. Like they're technical savvy, and I think that it is time that we call them out. Like that we can't stand by and stand back. Like we have to stand up and say, not only are we not doing our job as men, it's actually the opposite. Instead of being defenders and protectors of our families, we're hurting and abusing.
Now, did you hear that? I'm going to put it bluntly, like the person in that thing said. The number one abuser are white biological fathers, white dads, middle-aged. So if you're out there listening to me, keep an eye and an ear out. Watch your daughters. You just watch. Because the statistics The statistics don't lie. The numbers don't lie. And this is not just numbers. These are real human lives. These are people. And I'm not saying that to look, if it was the number one offender was middle-aged Black biological dads, I would tell you that because I'm a survivor. If it was middle-aged Hispanic women, I would tell you that. But that's the facts surrounding this. And we don't want to admit it. And I look, I have been involved in these things, and because as a survivor, and women, mothers, not my husband, not my boyfriend, not her stepdad, not her real dad. Never, 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 never. You don't know. You don't know. So let this Epstein files release day save at least one person or many, many more. A word from our sponsors. Support comes from Beam. The holidays are fun, but let's be honest. They wreck your sleep. Late nights, heavy meals, travel, stress. That's why I take sleep seriously. And when I found Beam Dream, everything changed, okay? I fall asleep faster, I stay asleep, and I wake up feeling clear, not groggy. Dream is made with clean science-backed ingredients like reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, apigenin, and melatonin. No crash, just real rest. And it actually tastes good. I love the chocolate flavors, and they've brought back the peppermint bark, which sounds like a Christmas in a mug for me, right? Beam has already helped improve over 26 million nights of sleep. So go to shopbeam.com/lemon, use the code lemon, and get up to 40% off of your dream powder. With my code, it is about $1.25 a night for better sleep. That's shopbeam.com/lemon. Support comes from Ollie. Ollie is my dog's favorite food. So we're glad that we get support that comes from Ollie. Okay. So if you've got a dog, you already know that you do anything for them. Now, I wanted the absolute best for my dogs. So I switched to Ollie. Ollie makes fresh human grade meals with real ingredients, slow cooked for nutrition and flavor. No fillers, no nonsense, just food dogs actually get excited about. They customize meals based on your dog's age, weight, and activity level, and even offer access to vet-backed guidance through their app. Since switching, my dogs have more energy, better digestion, and they clean the bowl every single time. Your dog's health starts with their meal, with their food. So go to ollie.com/lemon and use the code lemon to get 60% off of your welcome kit. That's OLLIE.com/lemon. And they also offer a happiness guarantee on your first box. So, you got to do it. Thanks to our sponsors. My dogs do love it, I got to tell you. Okay, so let's discuss what's going on. All right, this is Epstein Files release day. We have much more to talk about. Now, listen, this is a New York Times journalist describing 6 women who connect Donald Trump and Epstein. Watch.
Well, look, based on our interviews and a scouring of court records and other sources, at least 6 people who have accused Maxwell and Epstein of grooming and abuse were at some point introduced to Trump through them. And one of them was a minor. And you can read her story in public court records. She said that she was brought to Mar-a-Lago by Jeffrey Epstein when she was 14 and introduced and said, and Epstein kind of nudged Donald Trump and said, this is a nice one, right? Something like that. So I don't know. I think the reader has to judge if 2 grown men are staying there with a 14-year-old, right? What message can you take from that? What should the men have assumed was happening? And that's a question for Trump to answer. He didn't want to answer any of our questions specifically. We got one blanket statement for a long list of questions. And we'll see if he ever answers those questions.
I recommend.
So we'll see if he ever answers those questions. But again, and that is the New York Times reporting this. Watching that video, it's just, doesn't that just gross you out? It really just grosses me out looking at that. Todd Blanche, who is, I guess you would call the Deputy Attorney General, that's what he is, a Deputy Attorney General under Pam Bondi, responding to at the Epstein Day release, And it's a bit long, but I want you to watch it.
Well, today marks the deadline for the DOJ to make the Epstein files public after the president signed a law requiring those to be released. So in these files, are we going to learn any new information about Epstein and people that may have been associated with him?
So yes, so today is the 30 days, and I expect that we're going to release several 100,000 documents today, and those documents will come in all different forms, photographs and other materials associated with all of the investigations into Mr. Epstein. And just so everybody appreciates, President Trump has said for years that he wants full transparency, and he wants the Department of Justice to release everything that we can with respect to this investigation and cases. And we saw during the Biden administration.
I don't have to play the soundbite where Donald Trump said, let's stop talking about it. Okay. What is he talking about? These people, and he's an attorney? All right, keep going, sorry.
Radio silence from the very Democrats that are screaming from congressional steps today that we haven't done enough. But guess what? President Trump signed that law 30 days ago, and we have been working tirelessly since that day to make sure that we get every single document that we have within the Department of Justice, review it, and get it to the American public. Now, the most important thing that the Attorney General has talked about, that Director Patel has talked about, is that we protect victims. And so what we're doing is we are looking at every single piece of paper that we are going to produce, making sure that every victim, their name, their identity, their story, to the extent it needs to be protected, is completely protected. And so I expect that we're going to release more documents over the next couple of weeks. So today, several 100,000, and then over the next couple of weeks, I expect several 100,000 more. There's a lot of eyes looking at these, and we want to make sure that when we do produce the materials we're producing, that we're protecting every single victim.
I don't really pay that much attention to him, but man, he doesn't sound like a real competent attorney. I'm just saying, he's just kind of like, it's, I don't know, there's something weird going on there. But anyways, this is Epstein release day. And so hopefully we will get to see what's in those files. The thing is that, Susie Wild says Donald Trump is not in there doing anything really awful. Okay, maybe there isn't. Then why did he say stop talking about it? Why didn't initially he did not push for the release of those files? I know that Todd Blanche is saying that now. We know that that's not the case. And so if you have nothing to hide, then you have nothing to hide. You should have said it from the beginning and not stop talking about it. Just from what we have right now, what we know right now, I think it's disqualifying for him to be president of the United States because of his connections, the many connections. Look at the video that you just saw. Look at the evidence. You may want to call it circumstantial evidence or whatever it is, but people are convicted on circumstantial evidence all the time. I'm not saying he did anything wrong, but people are convicted on circumstantial evidence all the time. That's how most cases are. Many cases don't have eyewitnesses or people who are connected. It's circumstantial. Many, many, many cases. So you heard what Ro Khanna said about 3 o'clock today. So stay close because we're going to be covering this and we'll go over whatever information is in those files. Okay? If you want to know anything about the Don Lemon Show, you can go to donlemon.com. All right. Make sure you check out what's happening on New Year's Eve. We're going to be in New Orleans. Just stream us. If you can't come down, you can get tickets. You'll get the full VIP treatment. This is when now, this weekend, we start working hard on getting the show together and giving you a list of what's going on, who's going to be there, co-hosting or at least appearing with me right now. D.L. Hughley is going to be there. We're going to bring back No Broke, whatever. Dulce Sloan is going to join us. Big Frida as well. Kermit Ruffin. It's going to be a real New Orleans. You're going to some of the folks, if you're in New Orleans or you pay attention to New Orleans or you travel there, you're going to know some of the people. We're going to focus on New Orleans, and Louisiana, but also have some obviously worldwide or countrywide name, high profile people that you know. But it's just going to be fun. Okay, so that's New Year's Eve. Also, if you go to donlemon.com, you can check out everywhere that we are streaming, including YouTube, Twitch. It's twitch.tv/donlemon. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeart Radio. And also we stream live on Substack, Instagram, TikTok, all of the streaming things, Facebook. Okay, so check us out on all of it. All right. And if you go to the merch store, make sure you check if you want to ring in the New Year's with us. Get the glass, because we want you guys to be clinking. We want you to have a really good New Year's Eve and have your little champagne. Or if you don't drink, you can have a little cider and ring in the new year with us. The ornament, guys, thank you for that ornament. I don't know if I think they're selling out. You better get them now or they're going to be gone. People are loving this ornament. I get emails and videos of people taking them out of the box. Oh, you know what? I have one. Let me just real quick, Andy. I don't know how long it's going to take you to do it, but it's my bad. I should have given this to you this morning. Let's see. I think I saved it. Did I save it? No. Okay, here it is. So stand back and stand by. Let's see if I can get it to Andy. Where's me phone? Oh, here it is. I'm gonna try to get it to Andy real quick and see if you can put it up. Okay, here we go, Andy. Where is it? Oh, okay, got it. Got it. All righty. This is my friend Christina. So anyways, where are you guys going to be? Are you going to be paying attention to what's happening today? Where are you guys going to be today for at 3 o'clock for the Epstein files? And remember, we're going to have the information for you. It's probably going to come in slow, trickling in. So definitely at 5 o'clock, it will be a full major show that happens at 5. So make sure you set your notifications for 5 o'clock today so that you know. And then also for 3 o'clock, just stay close because we're going to be waiting to see what's happening. Yes, we will be watching. Thank you. Everyone's going to be watching. So you guys want us to go on at 3? Let me know. You're at work and you're going to tune in. Thank you. But here it is. These are the kind of videos that I get. For the ornament. And it's just so cute once it's on the tree. It's a cutie. It's a really great ornament. Okay, so all right, everybody, thank you so much. Be informed without being inundated until I see you back here a little bit later on, either at 3 o'clock or just once the information starts to come out. If it comes out before, we're going to go on, or at 3, or if not, full show for you at 5 o'clock. So inform without being inundated until I see you back here for sure at 5 o'clock, maybe at 3 o'clock, maybe earlier, whenever the files come out. I want you to do this for me. Turn the TV off.
Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss a show. We're live every weekday at 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time with new clips dropping at 2 p. and 8 p. And if you want even more Don Lemon Show content, join the Lemon community. Members get exclusive posts, behind-the-scenes videos, and live chats just for you. So hit the join button or visit our channel page to sign up. Thanks again for all your love and your support, and I'll see you next time.